Okay, hopefully you guys can hear me okay now. All right. Well, everybody, sorry about that. Basically, I got knocked off. The internet modem just went completely dead after I started talking about that special word, right? Talking about that. The internet went dead, and so I was just trying to restart my desktop computer, but it's now going through the updates thing, so it's going to take a while for that to come back online. So I'm just on my laptop camera here. So this is why, again, the video is kind of crappy. Well, my apologies, everybody, about that. Again, you just, certain things you can't talk about, right? You get knocked off the air for. So, and again, that's not just something that was a quote-unquote random malfunction. My internet was working perfectly well today. So being able to talk about those kind of subjects, for talking about New World Order, oh, am I still online? Okay. Illuminati, okay. So far, so good. It's all right. I think it's okay now. But anyways, I already lost my track of thought. So hopefully everybody can tune into this stream. This is a very, very different stream from the Reality Whisper webcast. I think what I'll have to do later on is just piece these two shows together and then just re-upload it onto YouTube a little bit later on. So again, my apologies, everybody, for cutting out there. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and just continue to where I left off. So again, that was the big conversation, was about moving from third density to fourth density in that way. And feeling that, you know, we're just learning to take responsibility for ourselves. The whole idea of our kindness principle, to really make that happen, is to look into our hearts. And if our hearts are damaged, we need to work on repairing that. And it's not about holding a crutch or playing a blame game on anything else that represents us outside of ourselves. So if we felt that, you know, I'm in this downward spiral because of this person, or because of the government, or because of this, etc., then basically if we're looking back into how this government got established in the way that it did, it was all based upon our state to be obedient, to have that form of obedience with them, and saying that, all right, well, you know what, I'll have a comfortable living, I'll have a lot of convenience around me, and in exchange, all you need is my silent obedience, right? So the whole idea is that this world, as it pertains to government, as it pertains to politics, as it pertains to everything within the systems, the limited systems of this reality, has all been brought forward through our state of obedience, right? We are the ones that have invited this in. When we actually take responsibility for ourselves, again, which is what's starting to happen right now, which is a wonderful thing to see, then we no longer have those particular situations where we're feeling that we're being mistreated, where we're feeling that there is inequality, where there's a feeling of wars or impoverishment, warfare, all of that. All of that now starts to disappear because the people take their power back. That's the most important lesson, is realizing that we're taking responsibility for ourselves. We're moving ourselves into a kindness alignment by repairing our hearts and feeling that because it's been so damaged, because we've been hurt by relationships, we've been hurt by career, we've been hurt by, you know, the collective consciousness, the social programming, etc., we get all of these wounds in our hearts, and it becomes so painful to feel that we just decide to turn it off. We just allow atrophy to come together into our heart centers, and now we can't feel what it's like to have you know, that aspect of emotion to share itself. So again, basically all of that emotion becomes stagnant, and that becomes disease, that becomes illness. And because we're not willing to open up our hearts and repair that, then this is what continues to haunt us throughout our reality. The shadows become so intense, we don't do anything to change that, to open ourselves up to look at these shadows and being able to discover an acceptance of ourselves. And that's where the problems lie. So again, the whole key here is being able to take responsibility for ourselves. So anyways, I hope that answers the question to, I believe it was Spencer who asked that question. But I went off into a little bit of it because it was a big subject to talk about. Okay, so let me just go back up to the chat here. Let's see what else we can find here. Okay, let me scroll over to the right here. All right, here's one from Patricia. She asks, does 4D and 5D overlap? What is the timeline for that? We don't know. That's the whole idea right now. And I think if everybody found a timeline for this, I'm pretty sure, a lot of worries would be alleviated. We really don't know what the timeline is for this full integration. Adronis has estimated that it would be about 50 to 100 years before we go into a full immersion of fourth density. So basically, if we're looking into 4D, 5D, we could refer to that as fourth dimension, fifth dimension. But basically, how I always term it is that it's third density to fourth density, right? So basically, there is a blur line right now. It's like two blur lines are happening. And some people are able to go above that blur line and start surfing the skin of the ocean that represents fourth density. Adronis has likened it to, again, putting your foot in the door and being able to see this invisible screen close behind you for those who are getting the glimpses of fourth density. I've certainly gotten them a lot. And being able to see this new, beautiful world, it's just so beautiful. It's almost like we're returning back into the indigenous roots. It feels absolutely wonderful. And just seeing this glimpse of a whole new world that is unfolding. And just being able to really just tap into that, just closing your eyes and feeling like you get these visions of another earth, of other people, of landscapes that happen, and being able to notice that you're merging yourself with a physical body and an astral body that are connecting together in one. So it still is a work in progress. We're not fully 100% transitioned into fourth density. In fact, all we can really do is just, again, skim across the skin of the ocean that represents fourth density. If the fourth density is the ocean itself, all we can really do is kind of like walk on the water and just kind of play with the surface of it right now. To fully immerse ourselves into a fourth density reality would take approximately 50 to 100 years. So that's still something that is in progress. And I know a lot of people go, oh, come on, I just want to get out of third density. I just want to go into this fourth density nexus. I want to play in a dream state, and I want to experience everything that fourth density has. We can spend time complaining about that, but that's not what's happening. It's being able to accept how things are right now, and that you will still continue to expand. You will still continue to move yourself into the alignments that are appropriate. But, it's not about the idea of saying, oh, come on, time's a wasting. You got a lot of work to do, right? You got to work. If you're, complaining too much about the idea that fourth density is taking a long time, there's something there that's attempting to tell you this. You're still seeing fourth density as a bailout rather than the idea of actually going through your own process to actually get better glimpses, get a very larger euphoric experience with fourth density. And you're still seeing it as, again, an escape. And that is an imbalance. That is a shadow, right? And that's something that needs to be worked on. So the whole key here is being able to just enjoy your life as it is in this particular moment. And if you're working with, again, shadows and being able to liberate those shadows, you're seeing how you're changing. Now it no longer matters about what density you're in, because we don't have a magical gauge that we can just hold out like a tricorder and say, oh, okay, we're about 3.95 density, right? Another 0.5% will be there in fourth density. We don't have any of those little tools. And even if we did, that still doesn't matter, right? It's about living where you are, being who you are, seeing the capabilities that you hold. Third density has a great deal of transformational aspects to it as well, too. We can go very, very far within a third density nexus. We can go extremely far in a fourth density nexus. But it doesn't matter. The whole idea, as long as you keep playing this as a technicality, about feeling that fourth density just needs to be here right now because I don't want to be here anymore, your problems are going to follow you no matter where you go. And if you have so much weighted problems, you're going to remain anchored here. That's the whole idea, is that this is not an easy thing, right? When you're going into a path of illumination and advancement with this, we honestly create some immaturity about it, right? It's feeling that this is just something that I need to escape from. I see it as a savior to myself, right? So I want to go back into that because I spent the last few minutes talking about it, and then I got knocked off the air for talking about it. So anyways, that's just something that I've discussed. So basically, when do we move back into from third density to fourth density? We don't know. The approximation could be 50 to 100 years, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, but that's basically the approximation. Right now, the whole idea is us attempting to work together as a culture, as a civilization, and move up into those higher degrees of consciousness. Okay? Thank you for your question. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Here's a nice one from Gail. Gail says, Brad, I love my life and my spiritual path. Thanks. Fantastic. Awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I would love to hear more people say that, actually. I'm just happy with what I'm doing. Actually, that is a rare thing. What you just said, Gail, is a very rare thing. And I'm so happy that you said something like that. Brad, I enjoy my spiritual path. I enjoy my life. Thanks. Awesome. Now, to me, that is an empowered person. To me, that's just someone who is just truly in their space and in that moment. Again, this is true. This is something that I rarely hear. And, everybody has such an incredible life. I hear a lot of people telling me about their life, and I think, wow, this is really incredible. You've done some great stuff. Oh, no, I haven't. It's awful. It's this and it's that and it's the other thing, right? And I just look at them and say, you've really done a lot. You've done some amazing things, and it's just being able to align to that, right? And pretty much everybody I've talked to has a really amazing life, has really amazing encounters, experiences that they've gone through, but they just don't give themselves that credit to see what they have been through and are still following a path of spirituality and living their life in this way. That's incredible. You guys really need to pat yourselves on the back for that, right? This is something that is not an easy path to follow. It's one of the most difficult paths there is, to come to a world that is so filled with this particular type of shadow, with this type of contrast, and being able to still come into illumination. That's a powerful path. That's not something that is easy. A masterful soul is the only type of soul that can do this. And so this is where you guys really just need to give yourselves more credit, rather than feeling that you're not doing enough, or that, this is not going to get me into where I want to go, right? Rather than looking at it in this way, be content where you are right now. Appreciate where you are right now. If you're sitting in this chair watching this broadcast right now and you're reflecting on all of this, give yourself a good pat on the back. Again, you guys deserve it, right? So really, and thank you, Gail, for sharing that. Enjoying the spiritual path and enjoying life. That is a big statement. It is very, very powerful. So I want to thank you, Gail, for sharing that empowerment for us. That's amazing. I really love that. Okay. All right, here's one here from Ascension Teddy. They ask, any suggestions to make personal physically contact? And what about predictions oceans will die and collapse in the next 5-7 years? Well, firstly, those are two entirely different questions. So why don't we look into the first one, which represents the idea of personal contact or first contact in that way. I'm assuming you're meaning something that may represent a physical sighting, or actually having a craft land and picking you up and then taking you somewhere. That almost always never happens, right? The opportunities of that are 1,000,000 to 1, at least, right? Again, I've talked to thousands of people from all over the world for the past 8 years, and maybe about 2 or 3 of those thousands of people have had an encounter like that. And it wasn't so much that they were going out into a field and demanding they be picked up. It was more so in the idea that they were doing something else. They were living their life, and there was an intervention that came through, and they physically got picked up and taken on board a spacecraft. They did not ask for it. This was just all part and parcel of what they were going through. But really the 2 or 3 people in that sense who basically intended to be picked up in that way, that's basically the odds in that way. I don't really like to look at odds and stuff like that. But it's very, very challenging for us to actually be able to say, oh, okay, yeah, ships, come down, pick me up, take me on board your spacecraft. I want to leave Earth. That never really happens, right? That is a violation of free will for them to even do that, to basically take you off the planet and never bring you back, right? You can't do that. That is them basically taking a very large amount of karma with them and then leaving the planet in that particular way. So extremely rare cases regarding to that. Basically, if you're looking for a more simpler form of contact, this is basically where it comes through the mind, where it comes through the mental imagery, where it comes through astral projection, where it comes through out-of-body experience. Those are the types of contacts that are much more common. Again, very, very few people I know actually physically get taken off the planet through their own intentions to actually communicate with another race or what have you, right? Basically, the people that are the few, or maybe the contactees, people that have ties and connections that need to be there because they have a certain type of mission that relies in connecting together with other extraterrestrial beings, finding out about these objectives, these new transformations that are taking place upon the planet, and then coming back onto the world, and then being able to share that in their own way. Again, those people are quite rare as well too. So it is not a common thing to feel that you can just go out into a field and call down a craft, have a craft pick you up, and then leave the planet. I mean, you have to understand exactly where these beings are coming from. A lot of these beings that are working with us. They may be future aspects of ourselves, or again, other versions from different galaxies, different star systems, etc. Their energy vibrates on such a heightened level of frequency that you couldn't even be in the same presence with them. Their energy is just astoundingly different from ours. And basically, you would have such a meltdown of character if you actually saw a ship coming down and these beings coming out and escorting you and taking you on board their ship. Not so much in the idea of a fear aspect, but because their vibration is on such a heightened level and they operate on such a different frequency, on an interstellar level. The interstellar space, has thousands of times more energy, more vibrational energy on a pure level than what we have here on Earth. Earth is basically a very big filter, right? It filters out a lot of that pure cosmic energy, right? So basically, if we're getting from that kind of energy, talking to these types of beings, you will just be melted. It's like melting yourself and basically going into very, very deep levels of shock. And a lot of beings will not do that. It's like Adronis. He would not just come down to Earth if he ever could, basically do it in his own form and start, hey, I'm Adronis from Sirius. How's it going, right? You just can't do that, right? There is, again, the prime directive. There is the law of non-interference. That is a very true law. That is something that really exists. And I know a lot of people would love to just go out into a field and say, yeah, just calm me down. This is just come down here, pick me up, and take me to your planet. I want to go anywhere else but here. I know, guys. I know. That would be pretty cool. But that's not really the nature of what a lot of these beings here are here to do. They're here to, again, work with us in a hands-off policy, right? So again, being able to have a direct, visiting onboard ship physically in the physical body is extremely rare. But again, if you want to do that in a mental level, on an out-of-body experience level, on an astral projection level, there are certainly many different forms of characteristics that you can do for that. Some people just go into out-of-body and just go into open exploration mode. They'll start flying around. They may be able to leave Earth's orbit. They may be able to come onto spacecraft. Some beings may be quite shocked and say, what the hell? How the hell did this human get on board our ship, right? Or again, you may have some appointed contacts and that they can actually help you in that out-of-body state to guide you to come on board their ship as well too, right? It's a very, very complex form of guidance here. It's really being able to work together in an out-of-body state, or if you're going into lucid dreaming as well too. And through lucid dreaming, you want to connect with other spacecraft, you can certainly do that as well too. But it's all about being able to discover the appointed liaisons that you have as well too, and seeing if they will work with you in this particular way. So there's a lot to cover with it. But if you feel that this is something that you want to do, and if you feel that you have a lot of experience in out-of-body travel or astral travel, firstly, you want to get that down. You want to be very, very familiar with astral projection. You want to be familiar with lucid dreaming, and then being able to direct yourself to work together to connect to other ships, to other beings, and being able to connect with them in that way. That certainly is a possibility. But again, that takes a lot of personal work. Okay. The second part of your question was about, is it true that our oceans are going to be dying in the next 5 to 7 years? No. Earth has a lot more than that. Adronis has actually talked about recently that even though things look intense and chaotic, the Earth is nowhere close to dying. She's tough, right? She's very, very strong. No matter how much damage humanity will attempt to do to the planet, she will always be able to regenerate herself. She will always be able to replenish herself. She really just has this capability that if we really were a nuisance to her, like that, we would be gone, right? And that's not what she's about. She's a very, very loving mother, right? This is showing that after all this particular type of infliction we do to her, she still loves us. She still shows us patience, right? She's not annihilating every single human on her surface, right? There will, of course, be storms. There will be a lot of tectonic shifts. There will be earth changes happening. But again, these are all part of accumulated emotional states on a collective level that are, again, sometimes being amplified by technology, right, to try and make it worse, and those goes into other agendas. But yes, those can happen. But as far as our oceans dying within the next 5 to 7 years, no. We have to look that when we're actually looking into our oceans, which are only 10% explored, you cannot really make the conclusion that because 90% of those oceans are unexplored, to actually give the idea of feeling that our oceans are dead in 5 to 7 years. How would you know that if you've only explored 10% of the oceans on the planet, right? It's not going to work that way. Not to mention that even beneath our oceans is more oceanic oceanic aspects that are 3 times the size of our own natural ocean. So there's a sub-ocean underneath our own ocean in that way, 3 times larger than the oceans on our planet. So Mother Earth is not dying in any particular way. She's definitely been going through some growing pains. She's definitely been having to deal with a lot of stuff that we throw her way. But no, I mean, really, you have to look into how ancient this planet is, and that basically, even with all the pollution and gunk that we've done upon this planet, if we're looking at hundreds of thousands of years ago, we're looking at skirmishes. We're looking at intergalactic skirmishes, beings dropping graviton bombs on top of Mother Earth that would look like the atomic bomb back in the 40s, look like a firecracker, right? We have had all kinds of horrific wars in the ancient past on this planet that is nothing compared to what we're doing to the planet today, right? So you really have to look at it in that particular way, that where we are in the course of history, statistically, pertaining to the population of the planet, there's a lot more evolved humanity here than there ever has been. And that's an interesting thing, right? There's over 7 billion of us here. And statistically looking at it and seeing how we're now starting to awaken, right? And basically, if you really just had the media, if you had the media basically working 100% organically and actually being able to share what is actually on the planet rather than the 3 to 4% of fear that is constantly making the headlines, you would be absolutely amazed at the type of planet we live on, right? And this is, again, why there's so much confusion, saying, well, the media is pointing this out. Of course. The whole idea is if you have thousands of people in a field chanting in prayer and meditating and feeling really, really good, all of a sudden there's a fire that breaks out over here. All the attention, all the cameras are going to go to the fire. Oh my God, what's this? What's this? This is what's happening. Oh my God, it's a disaster. And it's like this little, bonfire that's happening, right? Because it's something that rocks the boat. It's something that's a spike that we get in the collective consciousness. And because these little rare spikes happen, we got to put cameras on them. We got to say, oh my God, this is what's happening. This is the disaster. And then alternative media coverage takes care of it. And then all these other people start writing about it. There was a fire that was breaking out. What about the hundreds of thousands of people over here that were meditating, that were, aligning themselves to distribute peace throughout the entire planet? Oh, no, no, fire, bad, right? That's how the media works. We get this 3 to 4% of the aspects of these spikes, right? And then we'll start filming that. We'll start making stories about that. We'll start thinking about all this crap that, again, the 3% to 4% of the population represents. And we'll start filming that and making that the exclusive story, right? And that, again, is, corporate media for you, the world, right? That in regards to how they see it through a looking glass. But if we were really able to have an organic media that shared with us the positive aspect, how much people are growing, you wouldn't want to leave CNN. If CNN was all about that, their viewership would probably be through the roof. But the whole idea is that we utilize this aspect of tragedy, of tragicness, of fear, to basically be the entire epicenter of all news, not just mainstream, but even a lot of the grassroots stuff as well too. There's not enough focus in regards to the potentials of humanity, and there's a lot of potentials of humanity, right? And so this is basically what we're all attempting to do as a collective to change that around. So again, the world is nothing to what we think it is. It is very, very much more. Okay? Thank you so much for your question. Okay, guys, we're going to probably do about another 20 minutes, and then we're going to wrap it up. If you guys do have questions for Adronis, then I will go ahead and bring him in. So I'm just going to see if there is one. Okay, here's an interesting one here from Mike. Mike asks, question, does Adronis know of Christ and Archangel beings on the planet as humans to help with ascension and anchoring light? Okay, good question. Why don't we go ahead and bring him in, and he can answer that question for you. One moment. Terra Soul Star Sirius Adrones We are here. At this time, we bid you greetings, and thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude to all who are tuning into this broadcast through your internet collective consciousness. Through the question that has been shared with us, is it true that Adronis may be aware of other archangelic energies, or archangels and Christ consciousness in that sense, that is incarnated upon the planet? Well, the whole idea in that sense is if you truly just see this as an incarnation, you're missing the bigger picture. You have to understand that the archangelic intelligence is actually more of a running of nature than it is in that sense an actual incarnate being. You have to understand that the Christ consciousness is not, again, just through the plateau of us understanding it as a form pertaining to that of incarnation. It is also a force of nature. It is the idea that these are energies, and that the archangelic degrees represent the architecture to how your universe itself is formed. The archangels, again, represent this monadic form of consciousness. They are not individuals. They are not, in that sense, even entities, as you would understand that. They represent the essence, the natural forces of energy that accumulate the aspect of the universe to being what it is. Now, again, you are familiar with many of your different types of archangelic consciousness. Now, basically understand that the people that connect together with the archangelic consciousness are channeling that particular form of administration of flow when it comes to that force of nature. Again, you are not dealing with an individual. Again, this is where we have also stated that there was actually no such being known as Jesus Christ. That is a thought form. The whole idea in that sense is that the Christ consciousness is what you would term, in that sense, that which represents a completion within yourself, that which is in harmony with all things, that which becomes the universe itself, that which shows the love, appreciation, acceptance, understanding, and working of all life in love, in harmony, in light. That is the degree to what the Christ consciousness represents. It is the idea, again, of what many of you have termed as the Buddha nature or the Krishna spirit in that particular way. This is, again, why when you're looking at that, they're not referring to an entity. They are referring to an essence. They are referring to a force of nature. So we would say that a great many of your people on your planet are tuning into the natural force that represents an archangelic administration of energy. That many people on your planet are tuning into a Christ consciousness. That many on your planet are tuning into a Buddha nature or a Krishna spirit. Everything that represents a force of nature to where the energies govern themselves in certain degrees of polarity, to where when you look at them in wholeness, they are converged. They are one. So the aspect of an archangel in that sense is through your own state of convenience assimilated into the degree of looking at it as a being or looking at it into the idea of an individual. But that is not the understanding. The whole key is that they are focuses of energy and are speaking on behalf of the collective of a monadic oversoul. All archangels in that sense pretend, shall we say, not pretend, but rather in that sense feel that they invoke themselves, again as an individual for the state of convenience. But truly they represent an oversoul consciousness. They are the oversouls of the universe itself, because they are what you would consider to be the force, the essence that made the universe what it is, through that idea of what you term as an archangel in that way, which you would understand as an architect of the Most High, love of its greatest degree, for love is what creates, and they represent that essence, that monadic consciousness, that force of nature to which they apply. Therefore, many of you can connect to that force of nature, to that essence in itself, to create the convenience of it being that of a body, of that being in that sense a unique soul, an individual in that way. That is only a representation to how you are understanding the energy. But truly, they are indeed forces of nature on a universal level. Thank you very much. All right, great perspective from Adronis. Learn something new every day, so very good. Okay. All right, so I'm going to move down here and just see if there's any more questions. So we're going to take a few more questions here before we wrap up tonight. Sorry I couldn't stick around for longer, guys. Fortunately, that internet cutout set us back some time. Okay, so... Okay, I'm just going to scroll back up and just see if there's any other questions here that maybe I missed. Okay. Here's an interesting one here from Tom, and it is a sexual question, just so people have a heads up here. About sex, is it bad to ejaculate frequently, or is it best to save the sexual energy for rejuvenation? Okay, one moment. We thank you very much, Tom, for your question. Now, when you are basically looking at the aspect of sexuality, when you are looking into the idea of what you would refer to in that sense as semen in that way, basically the whole idea is that this truly is life force accumulated chemically. And so basically in that sense, when you are frequently, in that sense, ejaculating, or basically having the idea of orgasm in that way, it is all based upon the reference as it pertains to the orgasm itself. If this is something that is birthing together through the aspect of co-creation and through the aspect of love that is coming together, that seed therefore becomes sanctified into that apparent theme of, shall we say, tactfulness that has represented that orgasm to be what it is. But the whole idea in that sense is if you are continuing to utilize the idea of orgasm for the aspect of lustful self-satisfaction, this actually creates a degradation within the body. So if it is the feeling in that sense that you are simply lusting through the idea of the physical containers, through the idea of the surface of everything that represents your sexual craving, this does actually much more harm than good. Because you are utilizing in that sense to satisfy a craving. You are utilizing in that particular degree where the intensity of the orgasm itself is manifestation magnified many times. And so when you are basically utilizing it for the state of a lustful hunger, that is actually what creates much more of a greater degradation upon yourself. Because any particular energy of that nature creates an imbalance. And that imbalance therefore becomes strengthened like a wall that is basically grasping you into a vice. And so the whole idea in that sense is that this can actually shorten lifespan, is when you are basically utilizing the power of orgasm in regards to base ends, something that would represent a continual fueling for imbalance, the idea of not being able to see the satisfaction that you in that sense truly have through the bonding and connectivity of that with another, or that in that sense in love with yourself, to therefore convey that love. So wherever there is an imbalance, an emotional property of extreme that is therefore being, shall we say, facultied through the degree of orgasm, you are basically intensifying that grip, that aspect of, shall we say, degradation that represents the aspect of your own life force. So it is very, very important that when you engage into sexual acts in that way, there is an appreciation for your body. There is an appreciation for another. There is appreciation being able to look into the depths of how the love itself resonates, that therefore leads into the aspect of orgasm. This again applies to women as well. This is not just for the males. So the whole idea in that sense is that through both the male and the female, that if orgasm itself is misused, you are tightening a grip, you are tightening a vice, you are going through further states of degradation that are apparent through the state of that extreme emotional imbalancing. This is again what can cause corruptions within much of your own energy body. This is again what can cause corruptions as it pertains to the physical container. Again, this is how you would understand that you can actually feel that there is a greater aging process when the idea of orgasm and sexuality is being abused and misused. So this is again a very, very powerful significance that you all hold to yourselves. And that when you are abusing sexuality, you are abusing yourselves exponentially because of the power behind orgasm, because of the power behind sexuality. When it is misused, the degradation of that effect is very, very strong. So again, our recommendation is let it come together in the function of co-creation. Let it come together through the satisfaction of love between two. The satisfaction of realizing that you truly honor, love, and appreciate yourself. This is not to say that you cannot, in that sense, apply self-love to yourself in this way, but let it be in that particular contingency of vibration. Appreciation for yourself, appreciation for your body, appreciation of your feelings, appreciation for life. And that, therefore, generates a different effect. So the idea of frequently utilizing that in degradation, yes, can cause you to have, shall we say, shortened lifespans and basically accelerate the aging process if misused frequently. Thank you very much. All right, great. Thank you very much for your question, Tom. All right, we're just going to scroll down. We're probably going to take about 2 or 3 more questions, and we're going to wrap it up. Okay. Got some interesting conversations happening here, guys. Okay, so we're going to look for another question here, maybe for Andronis. Okay. Question for Andronis. After I became spiritual, I feel like I'm living in a dream. It's too magical. I have so much energy that I am... Okay. I don't know. It looks like the question didn't finish itself. From Kazia. So, Kazia, if you want to go ahead and finish the question, and I'll check back. Okay. All right, here's one from Jermaine. Question for Adronis. What is the politics surrounding the secret space program? Okay, well, this is basically an extensive question, so I'm pretty sure he can do what he can to sum it up. But all right, so again, what is the politics surrounding the secret space program? One moment. We thank you very much for your question. As it relates to your secret space program, it is not so much in the idea that it is being steered in one particular direction as it represents faculty. The idea that your secret space program contains many different divisions within itself, and many of these particular divisions at times can communicate with each other, but many of them again will have their own particular agendas. You have again other particular forms of super federations that work on behest at times with these particular organizations or programs, depending upon, again, the theme that is looking to be explored here through cooperation. But the whole idea, again, is that there is no particular governing faculty or governing organization as it pertains to politics within the secret space program. You're simply looking at spectrums of color. You're looking, again, those that move in a red ray, an orange ray, a blue ray, a violet ray, etc. All of these particular forms of compartmentalizations and departments. So again, many other different degrees of the secret space program are somewhat convoluted. But the whole idea in that sense is that there are, shall we say, divisions within the secret space program that are attempting to overcome other divisions within the secret space program. basically in the idea as it relates to trade, basically in the idea in that sense as it represents ethical conduct, basically in other forms in regards to, shall we say, maintenance or maintaining and working together in manufacturing as it pertains to different forms of technology. It is all very convoluted. So the whole idea in that sense is that you would need to bring more specificity in regards to a certain area within the secret space program, as you term it, because again, there is much that is happening in regards to negotiations, in regards to trade agreements, in regards to treaties, in regards to, again, manufacturing, in regards to, shall we say, the conduct of some of these particular organizations. Again, many of these organizations are simply interested in the aspect of greed, in the aspect of trade, and being able to bring more technology forward, and being able to discover more about what their capabilities do hold in regards to the aspect of this trading exchange in that way, and not really having too much of the idea of an ethical conduct as it pertains to what can be trade. So the whole idea again is that there is much convolution, and that through one particular division of the SSP that may do that, others in that sense are not in agreement with that, and that there should be much change. So again, there is a convolution and no official aspect of a generic degree of political agenda that represents the, shall we say, overall overseeing of such a program, such as your own secret space. So therefore, there is not really an accurate answer to provide for this question at this time due to such convolution. Thank you very much. All right, very good. And yes, just what I've been hearing as well too from the people that I've interviewed, and looking at Corey Good's stuff as well too online. It's very true. These guys aren't really organized. They don't really communicate with a lot of each other. There's not really a common basis of ethics that they work with in that sense. It's basically that it's almost like a dog-eat-dog type thing with a lot of these particular forms of organizations. And there's a lot of mayhem that goes in between those organizations as well too. And I'm sure that there's symmetry in certain areas, but they're governmental controlled. What can I say? All right. Okay, we're going to see if we have one more question here. Okay. Okay, here's one here from Joe, and she asks, what's going on with mental illness? I have a sister with a mental illness, and she is having a really rough time this year. Is there any way to help her? Well, Joe, you probably need to be a little more specific in regards to the type of mental illness. But again, understand that really when we're looking into mental illness itself, we're just looking into different aspects of emotion that have caused atrophy within the body. And again, sometimes this can lead to chronic states, chronic disorders. This can lead to the idea of, in that sense, mental hardship as well too. It's true that sometimes this can be hereditary, that if we're looking into area of the family to where there has been generations of mental illness in that sense, the whole idea of mental illness is that it still feels that it's incurable or that it's permanent in that particular way. And I would really not agree with that. Really the whole idea in that sense is that when we're looking into mental illness, if it's something to do with, say, for example, schizophrenia, or if it's something to do with, a loss of memory or learning disability, whatever it may be, all of this, again, just represents this particular degree of atrophy that has continued down the family line, even if it's something generational or something that we're discovering. Yes, it's true that sometimes we can have toxicities that can occur physically, relating to the idea of a very poor diet, or not being able to get enough nutrition as a child, and being able to experience a lot of these challenging times as it pertains to mental illness. But everything has the capability of remedying itself if the person is willing. And even if it's a person who feels, well, you know what, Brad, they may not be able to communicate so well. Well, they can communicate, they just communicate in another different way. And it's a way that we may not be able to truly understand until we really start to dive into them more and connect with them on a heart level. And again, this is why there's that strong connection to empathy and being able to develop that empathic heart with yourself, being able to draw images, being able to be very visual with a person, being able to work together in that way, and seeing what they're going through. And basically the whole idea is that kindness truly is the key and the antidote to what can help a person continue to develop themselves on a positive level. It's encouragement, it's kindness, it's love. It's the ability of knowing that we're constantly looking in many different avenues about how we can help a person. Because again, there is a lot of emotional stuff that again gets buried down and could cause a lot of these mental illnesses. Again, some of it can be drugs. Some of it can be prescription drugs. Sometimes it can be stuff within the pharmaceutical industries, right? It's very, very extensive. So really, when we're looking at mental illness, depending upon what it is, being able to communicate with that person, being able to work with that person, being able to show encouragement to that person, being able to share love with that person, being able to work with them and helping them create a life that is complementary to helping them overcome this. Again, it's a very, very vast field. But just being able to really look at what it is a person is going through and being of assistance to them. Even if, again, people who are having a hard time communicating, all we can do is send them love and agree to work with them and agree to help them through some very, very tough times that they have. They have to want to change, right? That's the most important part. The person is basically very much contained inside the idea of illness on any regard, whether it be mental, whether it be physical, whether it be emotional in that sense. All of these illnesses themselves require the state of feeling helpless, or feeling in that sense that there is nothing that you can offer, or feeling devalued, that there is more validation to the idea of disability than there is to ability. And so it's really being able to work with that person and finding capability within themselves and for them to see that in their own way as well. So it is a very convoluted subject depending upon what the aspect of mental illness is. But nothing is permanent. Nothing is ever, in that sense, accursed to feel that this must remain and that there's no chance of it ever being overcome. There certainly is. But again, that person has got to want to change, has got to want to feel better. And that's the key. And again, this even leads to my new healing system that I've developed, which is light circuitry attunements as well, too. And that if a person really wants to try this, there's a lot of bookings happening right now, but you can check this out on my website. Really, our entire purpose is to work together with the heavy states of imbalanced emotions and being able to bring all of that out and being able to let that energy be what it is and admitting and accepting and admitting and accepting and forgiving and going through that energy and placing all of that energy emotionally in its purest, rawest form into a symbol and then being able to focus on its opposite and being able to empower that just as strong. Then being able to bring both of them together and being able to seal that energy and actually having the extreme negative and the extreme positive coming together and aligning in that particular way and using a third seal to incubate that energy and allow the energies to be reestablished back into a form of balance. I've done this with a self light circuitry attunement just the other day. And it was so transformational. I did the abundance attunements, and that was wonderful. But doing the light circuitry attunement was even more of a greater revelation. It's actually shifted my reality. I've had actually a lot more people diving into conversation with me than I've ever had before, right? Because it's my encouragement of opening up a lot more, finding a nice balance to me, enjoying conversation, opening up and not feeling so timid, because that's what happens. When I'm talking like this in presentation mode, I can talk for quite a while. But when you met the old me in regards to personal, conversation, I wasn't that conversation. I was kind of in the corner and okay, that's good. All right, I want to go now, right? But now it's very, very much different. There's been a liberation that has happened to me and just seeing myself open myself up. And some people could even say that's a type of illness within itself. The idea of feeling very timid or shy. And just not wanting to feel that you're good enough or feeling that there is a rejection energy within yourself, because that happened to me, right? I went through a lot of rejection as a kid. I went through a great deal of suppression and emotional trauma relating to how my family conducted itself. And that stayed with me a lot as an adult, basically things that I could not see until not too long ago. And then being able to do work on this through light circuitry attunements, everything changed. And that was within 15 minutes, this incredible liberation happening. So that is what I'd recommend, Joe, if you wanted to talk to your sister, if that's something she wants to do, work with. Light circuitry attunements would be my biggest thing for that, because the big thing about light circuitry attunements, you don't need to talk about, the aspects if you're not comfortable, if you're not feeling comfortable in talking about, what your situations have been, what your traumas have been. then basically what we do is we use light circuitry attunements for you to just focus that energy. You don't even have to say a word, and you're basically bringing this energy out. I just say, just go deeper, and I guide you through it, and basically bringing that intensity of burden, that intensity of trauma into these circuits, and then being able to use another circuit to, again, bring about the opposite and making it just as intense. And through equivalent exchange, that energy forges and it seals itself. And you basically just put those circuits together and you leave them wherever you want to leave them. And over days, you start seeing the effects of the circuits working. It's very, very powerful. So again, if that's something you want to check out, either for yourself or for your sister or for friends, it's available on my website now. But anyways, thank you so much, everybody. We're going to wrap up the broadcast. Again, I'm so sorry that we had about 15 or 20 minutes of off-air time tonight due to that little cutout. But again, join me in 2 weeks' time, and we will be looking into Adronis celestial bodies. So looking more into galactic understanding. It's going to be really exciting. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in, and I look forward to speaking to you again in the next 2 weeks. Take care. Namaste, and may it be well with you. Goodbye.